This is my new plugin. It is a synthesizer and a sampler. And in this video, I'll show you everything there is to know about the plugin so that you know exactly what to do to get the most out of Leadr. Okay, so what is Leadr? Leadr is a synthesizer and a sampler that lets you craft new presets from your own sound library. So you can import your own one-shot library. It also comes with a one-shot library. And then if you click this little craft button, it pulls new one-shots into the plugin. It also has a synthesizer, physically modeled instruments, and a texture tab, and over 20 different effects. It takes two one-shots, pairs them with a synthesizer, runs all of that through effects, and then lets you play with it with an integrated chord and arp function. If you break Leadr down, there is really 5 main components that we will go over. First is the generators, so everything that generates sound. Second point is the articulation. Third is all the effects in Leadr and how you can use them. Fourth are the modulations and how you can change every sound. And fifth is all the user apps, the settings, the desktop panel, the little Easter eggs, all the functions that Leadr has that make it a unique plugin. All right, let's go through these. So here's a little overview over the plugin. When you open it up, it will look a little bit like this. On the left, you have your desktop panel. So this is basically like a computer desktop. Up here, you have your presets, so you can load any preset and play the preset. Then over here, you have your CRT panel, which is where all the sounds live. So this is where you have your generators that we will go over in a second, your effects, instruments, modulations. On the left here, you have your macro panel. So this is just the quick access to all the effects. And then down here, you have your articulation panel. So this has your keyboard. You have the chord quick menu. Down here, you have your art panel. Then you have this button here where you can choose how much sample and how much synth is used. And then obviously the quick preset menu. Here you can quickly change presets. You have the little split function where you can choose how your keyboard is playing. So now the bottom side plays the sample and the top side plays the oscillator. And then you can pull it and choose where it goes, and you can switch it. To the right you have this master panel. There you have 3 buttons, which is volume knob. Then you have a pitch button. This pitches the whole plugin. And then you have an effects button. This just changes how much all the effects are mixed. So this is a effects mix bus, and you can right click on this and choose what goes through the effects. Then you have an EQ, you have this tape button that creates tape emulation, and then you have a filter, which you can also choose what goes through, what type of filter, the mid, sides. So this is the basic overview over the plugin on what it has, and now we're gonna dive into each element and I'll tell you exactly what each element does. Generators. You have 4 different types of generators. You have the sampler, you have the oscillator, you have the instrument tab, and then you have the textures. So this is the sampler window. You have sample A and B, and you can drag in any sample into the sampler window. Let's say you want to make a bell sound. Then you just go look for bells. You take this warm bell. Here you can turn on and off the volume of each. So I will put this to the left side, put a bell, and now only sample A plays. And you hear it's going through all of these effects here. So if I bypass all the effects, you hear just a sample. And you might notice it's all in mono. That's because this poly button is not on. If you turn it on, you can play poly. And then we can turn on the effects. And now if you make the synth louder and you pull it over here, it mixes the synthesizer in. So now there's a saw wave mixed in. So sample A and B have their own ADSR, but they're by default linked by this little lock button. So when they're linked, the ADSR changes for both, right? If they are unlinked, I'm only changing A, while B is its own. So I like linking them if I want to edit both of them at the same time, but you can also edit each separately. Then up here you can change the octave, and here you can change the pitch of each sample. So if I'm on sample A, I can change it, or if I'm on sample B. If I click on the pitch button, it turns it to sense. so that is in between each semitone. Then you have these buttons here. This is, for example, the loop button, which gives you loop points that you can drag. This is the start point. And you can do the same here, and I like to lock them so that the loop is locked. You can also reverse. And if you click normalize, it normalizes the sample, so it goes louder. And the type button changes the sampling algorithm. So clean is like a very clean pitch algorithm, and then raw is like a bit more rough, and crunchy is like a bit more 8-bit Amiga type of sample. If you right click here, you get the zoom editor. So here you can edit the sample more detailed. So you can click X fade. So you see the X fade changes the loop. Also reverse, normalize, stretch. All that jazz. That's all in the zoom window. Down here you have this little visualizer, this joystick I will talk about later. And that's basically what you need to know about the sampler. Now, if I unclick all this and I go here, you might see this little craft button. Now, it only works if the samples are unlocked. So this locks them from crafting. So if I click this craft button here, you see it picks a new sample. So every time I click the craft button, it picks a sample from my library and puts it in slot A and B. And if you don't want a sample slot to be changed, you can click this lock. So now you see if I craft, this stays the same while B is changing. And what this does, the idea is that you can always find new sounds, but I always love the idea of random new sounds, but I don't like randomizers. It's not entirely random because you can choose what gets crafted, and that leads me to importing. So basically in the import tab, you can import your one-shots. So you see you have the source library and the Organica expansion and the base for all expansion. So this is your source library, and then you see some folders are turned on and off. And what this means is if I turn all of my folders off, like they will still show up here, but they're not being considered for crafting. You see, it's now saying it needs 2 one-shots. It's not changing the one-shots because they're turned off. If I turn on only the Organica expansion, it will now only use the folders that are turned on. By the way, make sure to update to the newest version, please, so that this works. And you can import your own folders. If you click this button, it will import your own folder. If you pull a folder in here, it will import your own folder and it will show up here. Now, you wonder what this little C button is. This is a tune button. Basically, this tunes your one-shots to C. So when you import a folder of one-shots, it will map all these one-shots to C so that they sound good when you play them on the keyboard. Because you're combining one-shots, right? If one is tuned to A and one is tuned to B, it will sound weird. So when you click this button, it tunes your one-shots. It takes a second, depending on how big your library is. But I mean, the source library is 1 GB. So it just tuned all of those in like 5 seconds. And if you click tune lock, it will do it for all of your folders. I also suggest to not load up libraries with like 50 GB or something. Ideally pick and choose like nice, because it obviously loads longer if you pick big libraries. But I added a smart load feature. So one-shots that are not being used, they're not being scanned as much. So if you haven't used something in a long time, it will retire it, but obviously it's still there. But it's just so that the plugin loads up faster. You can also calculate the size, and if you right-click calculate, it shows you how many files the folder has. You can find missing one-shots if some of your presets are broken or if you have moved folders around. And you can find duplicates if you click on here. And obviously the same goes for the texture folders. If you have textures, you can turn them on and off. And this just allows you to craft really precise. It's super cool. Like if I just want to craft chimes, I can solo the chimes. I can be like, okay, I'm a chime crafter. So this is the main fun of Leadr, bro. Like you craft new shit and you find sounds that are so wild that are like you would never find. You know, this is just like shit that you would, it's random, but it's kind of not, you know? So that's basically crafting. You can also right click and MIDI learn the craft, and then you can MIDI CC it to a MIDI button, ideally a press button, and then you can like craft on a button as well. And if you click these locks, then these are like craft locks. When I have this locked or when I lock these effects, then they stay the same even when you craft, right? You see this stays now. If I unlock it, it moves. So that's basically crafting in a nutshell. On to the next generator. Next generator is the Oscillator. So you have 4 different oscillators: sine wave, saw wave, square wave, and triangle wave. You obviously also have the attack and decay button. If you lock it, then it is the same as these envelopes. And if you unlock it, it is its own envelope. And again, you can obviously also drag it here. Then you have a pitch button. You have a detune. You have a poly detune. This is when unison is on. And then you have this PW button. This is changing the wavetable. Unison detune. And the spread. For synth leads, I, by the way, love the triangle, square, and sine waves. Triangle is super cool for lead. So this is the second generator. The third generator is the instrument tab. And this is like this little room here. If you've seen like the art of mixing, this is very inspired by this. And then you can spawn in different instruments, and obviously also the oscillator and samples. If you click here, you can spawn in, for example, a guitar. And if you move this, you can move it around. Woo, yay! Here you can change the settings, like the level, the tone, the body. The cool thing is you have strings, you have a voice, you have a kodomo choir, which is a Japanese children's choir idea, and you have a flute. Now the flute and the little choir and shit, like, they are not perfect. They're just like cool little instruments to use, but you can spawn them all in at the same time. And if you click, for example, on the voice, you can change the vowel. Super cool. Now, another thing that is super dope is let's spawn in the guitar and the voice, and then you click the spin button. They spin in space. And then you can change how fast they spin or the direction. Or if you just click on it here, it changes the direction if you right click on it. And then you can just spawn in as many instruments as you want. Crazy. And if you click scatter, it changes the position randomly. And then you can also spawn in the samples. So sample A and B are now spawned in. Synthesizers also spawned in. So if you do that, they basically run through the band room. And then you have the room effect. So this is a room reverb. This is a dampening. So this actually goes against the reverb. You have the volume. And you have the light, so this is the brightness. And then you can change the width by moving these speakers. An ADSR link will link it to the ADSR here. Beautiful! So, this is the instrument room. So next, the effects. So you have 3 pages of effects. If you click on each, it turns on, and then you have the effect parameters. And if you right click, you can send them to the modulation matrix, which I'll talk about later. So down here, you obviously have the effects panel, the quick panel, where you can turn all of them on or all of them off. So if we turn them all off, we have a delay with a feedback, dark. You can change the type of delay. You have a tremolo effect. You have a chorus. And then you can change the chorus type. If you click sync button, it syncs it to the BPM of your DAW. You have a flanger. You have a lo-fi. Transgate. Here you can change the time. You You can also right click it and edit it here. So you can be like, if you want to see it more clear. And then pitch delay, OTT, panner, spectral gate, a very simplified spectral gate to be fair, LFO. You can right click and choose what goes to this LFO. You can also randomize the target. All these extra effects like the unison. You have a granular effect. By the way, the granular effect is not being considered by crafting. So when you craft, it does not activate the granular because it would fuck it up too much. It would make it too crazy. This is the vibrato. Here you can change the delay and attack and release of the vibrato. And then you have the auto-wah. I like to modulate that, but anyway. You have the saturation. Here you can choose what frequency is affected. And change the type. And here actually you have these bars. So they're like an EQ. They also choose what frequency is affected. Then the talk box. And then you have a widener. And then you have a compressor. And every time you craft, it randomizes the effects. But it is biased, so it's fine-tuned. So it's not just completely random. It is so that it does it in kind of a musical way. And then the chaos button here, this also changes the filter type and it changes the envelopes. So it creates more chaos, but it does not change the samples. So what you can do is you can craft until you find cool one-shots. And then if you want more chaos, you can change this so that it changes the surrounding shit, like it changes the synthesizer type, effects, and it does change the envelope. Oh yeah, if you like a preset, you can click this save button or this save button. This save button gives you more options. You can save effects, you can save chords, you can save articulations, and you can save the sound. Or you just click this just saves the sound and everything into one. So if I like this preset, which also leads me to the preset menu. If you click here, you get to the bigger preset menu. Here you can see all your presets and the types and the banks. You can see what is in each preset. Or this is my favorite view, you can view the expansions. So expansions are basically expansion banks. You can make your own expansion banks. And here you see all of them. So these are the ones that come with Leadr. So Bass for All comes with Leadr, Beauty and Pain comes with Leadr, Organico and Source Library. So these all come with Leadr. Soon that I will also sell in a shop, and you can make your own expansions as well, or you can sell your own expansions or share them with friends. It's just an expansion thing. So you can choose the presets, you can export your expansions, and if you click here, you have all the expansions options. So if I want to make a new bank, I can call it My Bank, or if I go to here and manage, My Bank is right here. And then if I save a preset, I can choose My Bank here and it will save, goofy, this preset to my expansion. And you can also see it here, which is really cool. If you then want to export your expansion, you can click here, export My Bank, and it will export it as mybank.leadr file. .leadr expansion, and that will export the one-shots and it will export the presets all in one. So all you have to do is send your friend the .leadr bank file or upload that to your shop or share it in the Discord, where people also export expansions. You can find the Discord in the user apps folder. But yeah, this is expansions. I just wanted to explain this framework before I go into all the other generators, just so you know. Now, the next part, after you find the FX panel, you find this mod panel. You can also right click these folders, by the way, and move them to the apps drawer. And then they're in the apps drawer, most of them, not like the super essentials. And you can right click some and hide them. And if you right click here, it shows all the icons. And you can also reset it back to default. That's just some desktop stuff. You can also move all of these around. You can even move these around, by the way. And you can right click and change the color. Like if you make this pink or just green, kind of cool one. The last generator panel is the texture panel. So this is your texture tab. Down here, you have the texture folder with all your textures and obviously the folders of textures. You can import your own texture folder. You can pull in textures. Down here you have an envelope. If I turn off everything and I just play the texture, if I click the follow pitch button, it tunes the texture. You can hear I'm playing chords. So yeah, you can tune the texture, you can EQ it here. You can pitch it up and down. You can change the envelope. And if you have random start, it always starts at a different point in the texture. Yeah, pretty cool. Texture is super fire. Texture is also affected by crafting. So if I craft, it changes the texture. Except if you lock it. Then it just stays. This effect button here, if you right click it, you can choose what is ran through the effects. If you unclick it, for example, then the texture is not ran through the effects. And same goes for the samples, the oscillator and the instruments, so that you can choose what is affected by the effects. Same goes with the filter. Now we have the generators done. Okay, so let's talk about the arpeggiator and the chord function. If you click down here on chord, it plays chords. Here you can change the scale, here you can change what type of scale it is, and then here you can do voice leading. So it plays them more together. And then this is the ARP. If this little ARP button is clicked once, this mini ARP control panel is opened that you can, by the way, drag around if you want to see something behind it. And then if I click on hold and go, if I turn this on, then the ARP goes forever. So then you can just click single buttons and it will just keep playing, which is nice. If you right click, you get the big ARP panel. This is a bit easier to see. So let's play an ARP. Down here, you have the different ARP shapes. And when you press this button here, it generates new ARP shape. And if you right click it, it saves the ARP shape. So that is the waterfall ARP. Then you also have the custom ARP. Here you can draw your own arpeggiator shape. So yeah, you can like draw your own arpeggiators, which is super cool. Then you have the step shape with some little presets here. Here you can change the length and effects, like the swing, the dynamics. Here is another pattern button, and this changes the intervals. This is like special little patterns. And it goes in conjunction with whatever is picked here. So if your ARP sounds weird or like different, it might be that the pattern is on. By the way, you can find the big ARP pattern. If you right click here, it's like a quick open. And same goes with chords. If you right click chords, it shows you the chord menu, which is the next menu we talk about. So the chord menu has 3 different tabs. The first one is the scale. So here you can pick your scale. Obviously, this is also all pickable here. Like this is the quick menu. You see we have all types of different scales. There's also a harmonic minor scale that this is not really here yet, only spawns when you click here. Is a bug, but I'm fixing it, don't worry. Anyway, here you can turn voice leading on and off, which when it's on, the chords are smoother and closer to each other. And you can turn on strum. So if you click it again, it's strummer wide or strum down wide. Then you have custom chords, so you can patch each chord. This is a bit more advanced, but here you have the scale degrees. So the first chord, for example, I could make that a minor chord. Or I could make that a diminished chord. Or I could make that a custom chord, and then I can just click in what shape I want to be played when the one is played. And it will play that shape. Or I can press record and record the shape. So if I want to be like cool, I can be like, okay, let's record some MIDI, and then I can play that chord over the whole keyboard. With an ARP. If ARP and chord is on, it plays obviously both. And you already see what's cool about Leadr is this plugin really grows with you. Like if you're more advanced, you can do more advanced shit. But also if you're a newbie, you can also kind of dip your toes into more advanced stuff, right? Like I can just, if I know nothing about chords, I can just pick any scale and I can turn on ARP and chord and I can just be like, okay, let's use this scale and just click anywhere like. But yeah, whatever it is on here is what it will play down there, so whatever is selected. So I like to actually just work in C major, and then I play something, so I'm, for example, like... And then it records the MIDI continuously, so you can just click here, pull the MIDI in, bow, and now what you have played is in here. As you can see, it recorded a little longer, so let's delete that, but I have the MIDI here of what I just played. And if I replace this with another instance of Leadr, so cool. Now I literally have what I just played. Yeah, so this is the ARP panel. Really powerful panel. Sorry, that's the chord panel. Also super powerful panel. Now, last but not least, the mod panel. So the mod panel basically lets you choose a target of any effect parameter, like most Leadr parameters. For example, if I click the mix slider, now the mix slider is modulated to this LFO, and then I can click here, left click, and then I can just draw. And now you notice when I play, this is modulated now, and I can change how much. I can phase it, I can quantize it, I can change the time, I can edit, I can choose some pre-existing shapes, I can change what parameter. So now it's doing the master volume. And if I press the button again, all the active ones will be randomized. And then if I deactivate it and I press it, it turns all of them on. It just picks 4 random parameters and draws 4 random shapes and takes times. It's not completely random, it's a bit biased. I biased it to sound better. And yeah, then you can quickly modulate any sound. So if I click the sound now, I can change this here changes like the group time. You can change the mix of it. And if a button like this is modulated, it usually shows this little ball that like moves around. So if I play, you see the modulation in real time here, and then I can change the time. You can randomize what is being attacked. You can click on most things, right click and send to mod if you want to get a little more specific about it. Then you have these buttons here, which is, for example, trigger. So when trigger is on, it will start once a note is played, right? It will not go off the BPM, it will go off. Start when the note is triggered. You have random, so you can roll the shape and you can just reset. You can save modulations and you can load modulations. This is just beautiful, man. Modulations really tied this all together. So now you really have no limit on what type of sound you can create. If you ever do something weird, you can just click undo and it will undo your stuff. So we finally made it through the panels on the CRT. Holy fuck! Last but not least, I'll show you some funny user apps and some stuff on here, some useful stuff. So in here you have different apps. Like I always suggest you update, because obviously this VST, I dropped it and I wanted to drop it and then iterate upon user feedback and make it better. So that's why I dropped it when it was not perfect. And it's still not perfect. It has bugs, it has little things. Whenever you encounter a bug, you can just click here on the user app and you can click bug report, and then you can click create bug report and it will save a .zip diagnostics file, and it is not automatically shared, only once you send it in. And when you do bug reports, you can just click here, create the bug report, then you can open the web page. It will bring you to this web page. You can describe what happened, your producer name, email, what version you were on. This actually you don't have to if you export the bug report and the diagnostics. You can choose what DAW you're on, and then you just add the bug report report there. So this is the first app that's super useful. There's also the join Discord button here. You can join our community Discord. This is where people share presets, they share what they made with Leadr, and it's just a community for like-minded producers. So if you're cool, if you're a producer, if you want to mingle, you're looking for a cool community, you can join the Discord in the Leadr Discord, obviously for if you copped Leadr and shit. And I'm also hosting events for people in the Discord. It's just a community button. Yeah, we have the lyric book, so you can write your own like lyrics. Yay! You can load your lyrics. You have environments, so here you can choose different environments, which will change the background, and it will change the tape emulation and reverb sound of the master slightly, which is super cool. And then you have your trash. This is for all the presets that you deleted. You can delete them forever or restore them. It's just easier to manage presets that way. Then you have the studio timing here that shows you your streak of studios, shows you how long you've been in the studio time. You can clock your studio time. You can see your history. This is like today, all time, this week, days produced in a row. You have a little to-do list where you can add like to-do items. And then in the history tab, they show up. You can add, like you have a little calendar. This is your personal little computer. Then you have this little help button. You can read through the manual. So if you have a question, you can just type in sampler and it shows everything about the sampler. You can click here. It will lead you to the tutorial page. And then you can take the tour again if you want to take the tour or you skip the tour. Now there's one last button, and that is the link button. Now, what happens if you click the link button? This turns your leader into a leader or a follower. Or if you right click it, it turns into a commander. So if it's leader and right clicked, it turns into commander. What this does is if I clone my leader and I make my original leader, so by clicking, and then I make my other one the follower will copy what the leader does. So if I craft now on the leader, so the follower has bell right now, if I craft now, you see it crafted on the follower as well. It also sends the MIDI to the follower. As many followers as he wants, all with different patches, because if I craft, they now all have different sounds. And you can do this with like, technically with 50 leaders. Like you can have one leader and 50 followers. And you can also, if you go to MIDI out, you can click MIDI out and then control any external synthesizer or even another plugin. Like if you want to take Xenology or something, or whatever plugin you have, you can just open it up and control it through Leadr. So you can use Leadr in the other plugins. So you can be like here, you turn it on one, and now Leadr will actually trigger Xenology. You see, let's put Xenology here. Crazy. Beautiful. So yeah, this is super useful. You can make crazy, beautiful multi-patches. Yeah, if you made it until this part, I will leave a link with a new bank that I made for Leadr. So if you want to use the bank, click the link in the description and you can download this bank for free. This is just a bank with a couple of presets that I really like, and I think you will like them too. And if you don't have Leadr yet and you want to try it out, I'll give you a free 5-day trial. There's also a link in the description where you can try it out free for 5 days. And I want to thank you very much for purchasing Leadr. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the plugin. If you have any questions, I'm usually in the Discord. There's also a support bot in the Discord. And yeah, watch out. I'm excited to make cool videos with this plugin. I'm excited to do like cool events and like beat battles or whatever. I just wanted to make this update video because I keep adding new stuff. I'll do a couple of update videos. Probably after the next update, I'll probably have to do another update tutorial. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Peace. I'll see you on the next one.